Continuing in this vein of economic program discussion here on World Crisis Radio, and keeping your attention on Tarpley.net to follow up on this 30 million job program that I've got there. The economic situation. China's moving ahead, right? They've got they're building 50,000 miles of fast rail. They're building 21 nuclear reactors. They've got a space program. They've got a whole array of things going on, and they're sporting what is practically a 10% annual growth rate over the last 3 decades, 9.5% over 3 decades. Now, not all of that is real, right? There's some speculative froth and fluff in there, but on the whole, it's a very large amount of it is actual industrial production. They've become the workshop of the world, that South China, Shenzhen Special Economic Zone, and everything to do with that between Hong Kong and Macau and then up to Canton, to Guangzhou. What's with the United States? Well, we're leading in derivatives, of course, and we're also leading in bed bugs. So we've got the New York Daily News this week, headline, Bed Bug City. 10% of New York City households have at one time or another over recent years been infected by bed bugs. Now, that's a sign of economic collapse. That's a sign of growing poverty, declining standards of public sanitation, pest control, extermination, and the rest of it. These are things that can then lead to bubonic plague and all sorts of other things. So why don't we do something to increase the availability of social services of that type, right? These are exquisitely local issues. Yeah, the problem is we have tax cuts for the rich. We have Bush's tax cuts for the rich, and now we have the reactionary Republicans, and the Austrians, I guess, join them because they hate taxes. They want to keep these exorbitant tax increases for the upper 1% who are now making 75 times the amount per year of somebody in the lower fifth. Well, look what you're getting for that. Here we have editorial, Paul Krugman, New York Times, America Goes Dark. I'm reading this in the Falls Church News Press, August 12th to 18th. America Goes Dark by Krugman. So Colorado Springs, Colorado is cutting 1/3 of its streetlights. Philadelphia, we know, is got this Russian roulette system with closing of local firehouses. Fresno, California, something similar. Oakland, California, quite similar. Instead of rebuilding the interstate highway system, state and local governments are now breaking up roads. We had paved roads. We're now going back towards gravel because they can't afford to maintain the paved roads. So you reduce them to gravel, you don't have to worry about potholes, essentially because the whole thing becomes a pothole. Under the reactionaries and their propaganda campaign against excessive government spending, we've got teachers being laid off. Isn't that luminous? We're trying to compete with Japan, where everybody is seeking higher education and better education. The Obama administration answer to that is bust the teachers union and drive the states into bankruptcy so they lay off teachers. In Hawaii, home state of Barkey, the school year is being drastically shortened, I should say, alleged home state of Barkey, right, where he registered or where he says he lives. And as Krugman says, the word from the reactionaries is that basic government functions, which somehow we've been able to afford for generations, are now no longer affordable. But at the same time, we've got to maintain tax cuts for the rich. We've got to cut the capital gains tax, cut the estate tax, otherwise known as the death tax. Last chance to get some of those fat cats from the Reagan era as they now depart the scene. And we're told that there's a crisis of government financing, even though these are the same people who will tell you the market is infallible, the market knows more than you do, that you can't know anything, but the market knows everything. Well, the interest rates on U.S. government bonds are about as low as they've ever been. We're hitting some kind of a new record in U.S. government interest rates every year, meaning every week, which means that the demand for them is very, very high. But no, they say, don't listen to what the market is telling you. So these guys make it up as they go along. So you've got this entire pattern, right? So streetlights, roads, local health service, the fire departments, the police departments, and then down to things like your public health apparatus, bedbug city. What's the answer? Tobin tax Wall Street. The shortfall in revenues at all levels of government is very highly correlated with the fact that Wall Street pays no tax. Remember, we've got these little tax holidays, right? We had Virginia. We're going to have the district in Maryland with sales tax holidays for school supplies, shoes, and clothing for the back-to-school period. Well, Wall Street has that every day of the year. Their huge turnover, 1 to 2 to 3 quadrillion of hot money speculation, high-frequency trading per year. They pay zero, nada, nichts. They don't pay. And in terms of corporate income tax, Goldman Sachs, 2 to 3% was their rate in the last reporting period. So we want to call attention again. Ralph Nader doing something worthwhile and therefore deserving of attention and some recognition. Ralph Nader's article in Counterpunch that the Green Party needs with their gubernatorial, senatorial candidates in many states. Look them up. If you're in a state with a Green Party, if there's a governor and senator candidate or congressional candidates or whatever it is, send them that article by Ralph Nader from Counterpunch that it's time to impose Tobin taxes. Now, the easiest way to do it is federally. You can do a federal Tobin tax, and 1%, and 0.5% goes to the feds, and 0.5% goes to the state where the money is collected through some kind of a formula, right, to make it equitable. Otherwise, it might coagulate too much in Massachusetts, New York, Illinois, and maybe in some other places. But you want to distribute this. However, this is where the states' rights stuff becomes interesting. I think states' rights in general is a very bad slogan, generally quite reactionary. I wouldn't have anything to do with it. But in terms of specific actions to attack Wall Street, in this case with the Tobin tax, a Wall Street sales tax, that's the kind of stuff that states can and should do. They must do to safeguard their own existence. And this has nothing to do with nullification, interposition, or any other thing. This is simply saying, here, we have a right to impose a sales tax, and we can extend that. Nobody doubts their right to have a sales tax. We're going to extend that to Wall Street transactions involving people in our state. In the middle of all this, we want to keep our eyes on Privatizer Ryan. Privatizer Ryan is the leading reactionary Republican deficit hawk, budget ghoul, and austerity vampire, and his ridiculous roadmap. He's now attracting attacks, basically pointing out that his roadmap would be a tremendous gift to the rich. We have Matt Miller here in the Washington Post from the Center for American Progress. And this guy Miller is a deficit hawk in his own right, but he points out that Ryan doesn't solve the problem. And the reason for this, dear Matt Miller, is because there is no solution outside a comprehensive recovery program that's got to call for the comprehensive reindustrialization of the United States. And I've seen Gerald Celente doing an interview with Yahoo Financial News, and he wants to go back to manufacturing, but he thinks we're going to do this with some kind of green jobs. No, you need to build 100 of the most modern nuclear reactors, high-temperature, pebble-bed nuclear reactors of the most modern type, or you are essentially out of it. You better start your Chinese lessons if you don't build those reactors. So enough with this Austrian mystification. Let's reindustrialize the United States, starting with the energy infrastructure. 100 nuclear reactors started now, and maintain civilization in the states and localities. Back in a minute.